Good afternoon, my name is Camden and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a long-awaited book haul. The last time I filmed a book haul, it was late last year, so it's been almost 9 or 10 months since the last time I posted a book haul. However, I've really been on a bit of a book buying ban for the past year or so. I've been trying to limit the number of books that I accumulate, so I still have less than 20 books to show you guys, but I'm excited about every single one of these and I'm really looking forward to showing you what I've got. A lot of these you may recognize from other reading vlogs and things like that, as I have completed some of these books. The first book that I have here is one that I am so excited for, and that is A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. Ever since I finished Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies earlier this year, I have had a reawakened love for like the field journal style of books. I can trace this love all the way back to middle school when I first read the Spiderwick Chronicles. I had not read like a field journal study on mythical creatures since that time, so that book really reignited that spark, that love for me. So when I saw that this book existed and it is like a field journal style book about dragons by one Lady Trent, I was so excited to pick this one up and see what I think. I have not read it yet, but I'm excited to do so soon. The next book that I have is one that I've been anticipating reading for quite some time, and that is Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph White. This book is a queer cult story. We're following a trans boy named Benji who is escaping from a religious doomsday cult. However, this story seems like it's going to be a lot deeper than the surface level of like a queer teen escaping from a religious cult, and that there is some type of speculative element to this one. There's mention of Benji being a bioweapon that the cult planned on using to decimate the world's population and bring about this like Armageddon situation. So I'm really excited to see what this one is all about. It sounds right up my alley, just like weird enough, culty enough, queer enough. So I'm really excited to pick this one up soon, hopefully by the end of the year. The next book that I have here is one that's a little bit outside of what I typically read. However, it did have enough elements that interested me that I wanted to give it a shot, and that is The Tumbling Girl by Bridget Walsh. This book is set in Victorian England in London, and we're following a circus troupe or a theater troupe or something along those lines, as there is a rash of disappearances and murders within the troupe. We are following a main character named Minnie as she is teaming up with a detective to help solve these mysteries, and in particular solve the murder of her best friend. This book sounds like it's going to be a little bit gritty, a little bit dark, a little bit Jack the Ripper vibes, and it looks like this book is also part of a series. I don't know if that series follows Minnie or if it follows the detective or if it's just kind of set all in the same time period, but sounds like if I enjoy this one that there will be several more that I can pick up after it, so that's kind of exciting. The next book that I have here is one of the ones that I'm the most excited for, and that is Women of Myth by Jenny Williamson and Jen McMenemy. It took me so many tries to pronounce that name. It's broken up into sections. There's a section for goddesses, a section for heroines, and a section for monsters. It also has incredibly beautiful illustrations throughout. Has an illustration for every single story that we're covering in this one, and I am just honestly so excited to read this one. I feel like if you could sum up everything that I love into one book, I think it would probably be this book. So again, put this one on your TBRs, guys. The next book that I have here is one that I've talked about several times before on this channel, and that is All the Dead Lie Down by Kyrie McCauley. This book is like a gothic YA horror, I believe. This book is following a main character whose mother recently passed away, and she ends up moving in with one of her mother's best friends who is a horror novelist. She's moving in with this family in order to take care of their 2 young children. However, immediately as she moves into this house, weird things start happening. The children are very creepy and precocious. The house is giving off weird vibes. The horror novelist herself seems very like quirky and eccentric, and this whole vibe just seems so up my alley. I'm so excited to pick this one up. I feel like every single book in this haul I'm so excited to pick up, but it's true. I just don't know when it's gonna happen, but hopefully sometime this fall, because it fits the vibe. Another very fall coded book that I acquired recently is Our Hideous Progeny by C.E. McGill. This book is following our main character Mary, who is the great niece of the original Dr. Frankenstein. I did not investigate too much into what the plot of this book is about, but I do know that Mary is a scientist in her own right, and she is trying to make a name for herself within the science community, and also that this book has a lot of queer elements to it, so I'm very interested to see what this one is all about. I never read the original Frankenstein, but I'm not much of a classics girly anyway, so I think I'm just gonna go in with very little knowledge of the source material and just see what I think. The next book that I have here was a book of the month pick, and that is Inkblood Sister Scribe by Emma Tours. This book is following a family who has been the guardians of this very ancient and rare collection of magical books for many generations. At the beginning of this book, there is a death in the family, and it ends up bringing these two estranged sisters back together in order to solve the mystery and figure out what seems to be going wrong with this collection of books. This book sounds really interesting to me. I am, of course, a book enthusiast, so any books that deal with libraries, books, bookkeepers, all that kind of stuff, I find it very interesting, so I'm really excited to read this one and see what I think. It's gotten a lot of buzz and positive reviews since it came out, so I think it will be a success. The next book that I have here is another book of the month pick, and that is Wayward by Amelia Hart. I've talked about this book a few different times on this channel and a few different videos, and every single time I give kind of the same vague description because I don't really know a lot about what the plot of this one is about, but I kind of prefer it that way. This book is following 3 generations of women, and it all centers around their ancestral home, which is called Wayward Cottage. The 3 different women are all living in different centuries. So we have one character who's living in 2019, one character who's living in 1619, and one character who's living in 1942 during World War II. I believe there is a fantasy or speculative element to this book. For some reason, I have the impression that witchcraft is somehow involved. I'm really just excited to go into this one blind and be along for the ride. I have heard so many positive things about this book though, so my expectations are pretty high. The next book that I have here is one that I already read and rated pretty averagely, but that is Heart of the Sun Warrior by Sue Lynn Tan. This is the sequel to Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which I read earlier this year, and I finished this one just a few weeks ago. It did not live up to my expectations, and it did not live up to the previous book. However, it happened. I own it, and here it is. Look at its beautiful cover. Because it's a sequel, there's not really a lot that I can give you as far as plot, but the first book is following the Daughter of the Moon Goddess as she's going on this quest to try and restore her mother's good reputation and get her freed from eternal prison that she's been put in. I really enjoyed the first book. I think I gave it 4 stars, but this book was like a 2-3 star for me, so a little bit disappointing. Another book that I have already completed is Atalanta by Jennifer Saint. However, this one I ended up giving 5 stars and is one of my favorite books of the year so far. This book is so beautiful. I'm so happy to own this one. It has the most beautiful illustrations from every single angle that you could possibly find on this book. This one, obviously, as you could probably imply, is following the story of Atalanta, who is a heroine in Greek mythology. We're following her from the time that she is literally born and left in the woods to be raised by bears up until she joins Jason and the Argonauts for the quest for the Golden Fleece. And then continuing on, we follow her in the Atalanta and the foot race story that is probably one of the most famous stories of her from Greek mythology. I really loved reading this book and hearing Atalanta's story from her perspective and seeing what an absolute badass she is. If you haven't read this book already, I highly recommend picking it up. It's such a wonderful story, and if you do end up picking it up, I highly recommend getting the UK edition. On the topic of Greek mythology, the next book that I have here is another Greek mythology retelling and another UK cover that I absolutely adore, and that is Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This edition is just to die for. I love the gilding on it. I love this like heart bow on the cover. I love how simplistic it is. The ribbon bookmark, everything about this book is so gorgeous. I got it from Blackwell's. That's just been the one that I've been using now that Book Depository is no more. The next book that I have here is one that I've been super excited for ever since I saw it was being released, and that is Godkiller by Hannah Kaner. We are following a main character in here named Kissen, who is a god killer. She hunts down and kills gods, and we are also following a lesser god, Skedi, who is the god of white lies, and they are teaming up to go on a quest together. Obviously, this is a story of unlikely allies, as you can easily see. Also, just look at these gorgeous end papers. We are getting right down to the end here. The next book that I have is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. Again, you can see I purchased the UK cover. I'm just going to read the description to you on this one. Orphaned as a baby, 19-year-old Signa has been raised by a string of guardians, each more interested in her wealth than her well-being, and each has met an untimely end. Her remaining relatives are the elusive Hawthorns, an eccentric family living at Thorn Grove, an estate both glittering and gloomy. Its patriarch mourns his late wife through wild parties while his son grapples for control of the family's waning reputation, and his daughter suffers from a mysterious illness. But when their mother's restless spirit appears, claiming she was poisoned, Signa realizes that the family she depends on could be in grave danger and enlists the help of the surly stable boy to hunt down the killer. Signa's best chance at uncovering the murderer, though, is an alliance with Death himself, a fascinating, dangerous shadow who has never been far from her side. Though he made her life a living hell, Death shows Signa that their growing connection may be more powerful and more irresistible than she ever dared to imagine. This one has been getting a lot of hype ever since its release, so I'm super excited to check it out. And that brings us up to the final book, or rather books, because my beautiful, lovely, wonderful husband got me this bad boy for my birthday this year. This is The Hobbit and the Complete Lord of the Rings trilogy by J.R.R. Tolkien, and I have waited many, many moons to open this with you guys for the very first time. It's still in plastic, and I have scissors here so that I can bust into this thing finally. It is so heavy. Oh my god, look how beautiful these are. We have The Hobbit here. Here's the front, the back, the end papers, please. It has illustrations throughout. Fellowship of the Ring, front, back. I'm planning to do a whole reread of this series, hopefully sometime next year, because it's been like over a decade since I read these books last, so I definitely want to read them again. Two Towers. I'm just showing these off to you. I think you should all make as many bad purchasing decisions as I do. Oh, I love Return of the King's cover. Gorgeous. A map of Mordor, very fitting. The illustrations are so beautiful. Even these books, like individually, could definitely knock someone out. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like this video, comment, share, subscribe, and I will see you all next week with a new video. Goodbye.